Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode. Today, we welcome Nadine Artemis onto the show. Nadine is the author of Renegade Beauty and Holistic Dental Care. And I came across her work through a podcast I was listening to. And it was at the time when I was curious about toothpaste and what I was putting in my mouth and how I could create a healthy environment inside of my mouth instead of wiping out all of the good bacteria, which is what happens when we use a lot of the toothpaste and the mouthwashes that are available to us in the stores. And it blew my mind going down this path because I was just like, oh, it's another thing where I've just been using it my entire life without really understanding what dental care means and what our mouths are calling for. And not just our mouth, like this is the opening to our digestive system. It is our gateway into our body. And so just breaking this all down and coming to these ideas and these tips that can help you to create very small changes in your life that will massively help your body. So if you are ready to support the good bacteria in your mouth and to support your digestive system, which in turn supports your brain, your mental state, your mood, then this is the episode for you. And I just feel with having my daughter as well, I'm so curious to the ways that I've been living my life with my eyes closed and how I can wake up to give her a better foundation, a better start in life. And I've spoken about this on another episode about how I never realized how important it was to receive the right nutrition to support our dental health. And in one of the earlier episodes where I speak to Sally Fallon, who is the author of Nourishing Traditions, we really go into the nutrition that supports our dental health. And this all roots from the research that Dr. Weston Price did many years ago. So please go and take a look at that episode, which I'll leave in the show notes as well. If you're wanting to know how you can make your own products, which I've been doing at home, and it's super easy. It takes a lot to get over the fact that your mouth isn't foaming. But once you do, you can just see the difference. And she shares how we can integrate this for the whole family. So it's safe for children to have these products that we can be making at home. She also shares the actual physiology about the tooth, which is fascinating because I feel it's something that we don't really hear about. We don't really know what's going off inside of the tooth and how it is influenced by the stress that we're holding in our body, by our external environment, by what we're eating. And it just is so fascinating. And this is stuff that I had not heard from a dentist before. It's things I had not heard at school or at nursing school. And I was blown away. So thank you so much for Nadine for all the work that you have done, for the books that you share, for the podcasts that you've been on, for the products that you put out into the world. I'm going to leave all of her information in the show notes so that you can go and check her out and go and see what she has to offer. So for everyone who's following my journey, I just want to give you a quick update. There has been some delays between putting the podcast out. As you know, I took a spontaneous pause. And now I'm in Peru, so I just left Croatia. And we're here. We've been here for a week or two, and we've come to be closer to our dear friends Alida and Angelica, who have their little girl Aluna. So you probably remember Angelica. We started the podcast together right at the beginning, and we went on for around a year together. And then Angelica went off to do her own thing. She took some time for herself to be with her family. And so we're coming back. And now we're going to be doing the episodes in person, which I'm really excited about. I'm waiting for her to get back from Sweden with a microphone so that we can sit with a cacao, put a candle on, and just see what comes through. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking topics and pulling them out of the hat and just going wild on them and seeing what comes through. So if you have any topics that you want us to cover, then please send us an email and we can integrate them as well. And I just want to say a massive thank you for everyone who's been in touch, checking in with me, making sure that I'm okay. I am doing really beautifully. I'm taking a lot of time to go inwards. I've felt a lot of the wounded maiden coming up, and I'd love to explain that more in another episode. But just where she's been arising and where she's been needing some love and to be held and to know that, like I'm here with you. I support you. I love you. And actually having the opportunity to see her rise up with all that energy and to hold it and to know that I can love it and support it from this space. And I can use this energy where I'm at the moment, this mother energy, to actually nourish her and to feel filled up and to not just roll into the victim role, which is something that comes very closely with my wounded maiden. For me, my younger self was a lot about stepping forward and showing everyone that I was right, showing everyone that I could do everything by myself, whilst at the same time feeling that I wanted someone to come to save me and take me away and just hold me. So there is them two sides that I see. And just by knowing this, I'm able to make space and then to see, okay, what is it that I actually need in this moment? How can I hold myself and how can I share that with Elan so that he can hold me as well? And this has really come through because I've been going deeper into myself with exploring the invisible world, exploring the dream state, going deeper into my meditations. And in that space, I'm just able to see things a lot more clearly. So thank you so much for following my journey and following along with the podcast. I'm not going to be around on social media right now so much as I was before, which was a lot. I'm going to be taking a step back. So if you do want to contact me, I'll leave my email in the show notes. And please enjoy these episodes, which will be coming through more frequently. My maiden told me that I need some space or I'm going to run away. So I said to Elan, hey, I just need some dedicated time every day where I know that I can relax, where Araya is having fun and playing. Araya and Daddy have gone off into the mountains to play, and I'm taking this time because it's so easy to just get caught in the same patterns that worked at the beginning. But Araya is 2.5 now, and yes, she's my daughter and I'm her mother, and she's safe with her dad. She's ready to explore. So I'm feeling super comfortable to let this happen and unfold and to take myself out of the comfort zone and to say, yeah, like give me that space, give me that time, and let me remember myself as a woman. So I'd love to know how you're all feeling about that, where you're at your stage in motherhood, any insights, any wisdom, any challenges that are coming through. So in the next season, we will be mixing things up a little bit. It'll be more me and Angelica holding the space. We might be interviewing people from this area. I have a very strong conscious community here with a lot of wisdom, a lot of insights, a lot of plant medicine. If you have someone that you would love to hear us interview, if you want us to pull out some wisdom from them, then let us know. We're starting fresh with the next season, and we would really love your support and and insights to what you want to experience, what you want to listen to. So on that note, I'm going to close and just take a moment to be in your space, to rest in your body, to be anchored with the breath. Feel your jaw relax and soften. Open the heart to receive what is meant for you. Thank you so much for being here.
Welcome, everybody, to the Depths of Motherhood podcast. I'm your host, Danielle. This week, Nadine joins us on the show. Welcome, Nadine.
Hi, I'm happy to be here.
Yay. I'm so happy that you're here. So I'd love to get started with an introduction to you, by you, saying how you got to this point doing what you're doing. Because I know that you are offering so many beautiful gifts, organic, non-GMO gifts. That's right up my street.
Well, yeah, luckily I had a lot of childhood time in nature and I was really enthralled with the botanical world. And then that sort of confluenced with just normal teen life and, getting into like makeup and cosmetics and that kind of thing. And was always concocting with the stuff. And I didn't, back in the 80s, didn't know the difference between like synthetics and naturals. But I was working on a science fair project and, I found this book at the library on cosmetics and, there was a great chapter on perfumery. So I started to, I made a perfume. I went to the book talked about the health food store, that there would be these things called essential oils. And it really like grounded in the history of perfume because really we had no idea where the stuff was coming from, and of course it was synthetic, but it was talking about the history of like early distillation in Egypt, that kind of thing. So I was totally thrilled and enthralled. And then, so we went to the health food store. I got my first whiffs of essential oils, jasmine, like blood orange, lemongrass, ylang. And it's not like there was any vocabulary for like naturals to synthetic in that moment. But I definitely, my olfactory bulb was awakened in a different way. And it was very different from everything I'd been smelling. So I remade L'air de Temps, continued to mix and concoct. But then really when I got to university, I was really starting to understand and get into like food and where it comes from, how it's connected to the environment. And and then really understanding like labels, like deeply. There's this book on like really how to dissect the labels at the supermarket, which was really, really eye opening. Well, there's just small things that like brown sugar is white sugar with molasses, just all the tricks and like secondary ingredients that aren't on labels, all that kind of stuff. So then it just like made me look at once again the labels on the stuff in my bathroom. And that's where I realized, even the Body Shop at that time was just this petroleum promised land, still a lot of BS. And so then it all just sort of came together. I was like, oh my God, like now I have an excuse to make real things. And now, and then I was studying about all the raw materials. Because growing up, looking at the things on the backs of the labels, I mean, you don't know where that comes from, like, what sodium lauryl sulfate or that kind of stuff. But I get like jasmine or, lemongrass, vetiver, like I get all that. So that was really thrilling. So as I'm going through university, I'm also like just making things and friends and family are loving it. And I'm importing all these beautiful raw materials that were not available. And then like as soon as I graduated, I opened up North America's first full concept aromatherapy store in Toronto. So that was super fun. And as I'm going through this and learning, I'm also really like beginning to understand that there's like as we're caring for the body in the name of beauty, let's just say, but there was just such a interconnection between how we take care of our body and how we feel, or like, the digestive system connected to the hormone system, connected to the skin system. So I was just seeing like a whole bunch of new ways too, to just understand the body, care for the small things that like, can kind of like take us down in the day to day, like a stomach ache or a headache or other people's little ailments like eczema or psoriasis, and like finding ways to solve all that. And that was really thrilling for me. And then I just felt like when I was about 22, I was like, there's also, though, a gap in oral care. There was really not even books, except for like major, sort of textbooks for dentists. But I'm like, what are we doing on a daily basis so that going to the dentist isn't such a nightmare? And that's where I found there was a lack. And then also like, really trying to understand like what's going on in there. What does the mouth need? And I did go to a holistic dentist back when I was about 24. They weren't that holistic, but the hygienist was. And I had the beginning of a cavity. And she was like, go home, work with your stuff, make something, and then like come back and we'll see if like the cavity is gone. And like, forget about concocting stuff. I was just like, what do you mean? Like, there's like the teeth can have other experiences other than sort of the death sentence of going to the dentist. And so, but of course, the teeth are alive and of course they're connected to the rest of the body. And so then that really began like, about a decade of really studying the mouth and what we can do on a daily basis.
Oh my gosh. It gives me goosebumps because also, I haven't I wasn't able to find this information so readily. And I was looking into Weston Price's work,
Yeah.
and I was reading, oh, what's that book on cure um, dental cavities? I can't remember the name of
Yeah.
the
Cure
book.
tooth decay, I think.
Yeah, that's it. So I
Yeah.
was reading that, and it was all based around nutrition because we had an issue recently where my daughter's teeth started to decay. She started to get like indents. And at first I saw a discoloring, and then suddenly I saw this indent. And then I was like,
Mm.
what is this? Because we are eating so healthily and she's still breastfeeding. And I was kind of like embarrassed because the only thing that I'd known about cavities and tooth decay is that it's from eating sugar and not brushing your teeth. Like that's the basics of it.
Yeah.
And
That's,
so
yeah.
I started asking around to other mums, and then it all started to come to light that this is very common. So I was curious then to see, okay, what can we do about it then? Where do we start? And so the first thing that I heard was holistic dentistry, which I'd never heard of before. So I'd love for you just to touch on that for people that haven't heard about holistic dentistry
Mhm.
before and what it means.
Yes. Well, I think just there is like a definition in the sense it's going to be dentists that like are hopefully practicing like less invasive. They understand that the mouth is connected to the body. And and then hopefully they're practicing like less toxic options and using less toxic procedures. However, it really varies and there's not a set thing. And then there's also terms like biological dentist, which might be like kind of even more advanced than holistic dentistry in a good way. But again, it's going to depend who the dentist is. And in my book, Holistic Dental Care, as well as I believe we have an article on our website. We have one that's questions to ask prospective dentists, and then there's also like organizations that can start you out on your journey to like find somebody in your area that belongs to like a more holistic or less toxic dental associations, which I
Do you
can't
have that
remember the
in your blog?
acronyms. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
great.
on
I'll
it's
put,
on the article for sure. Yeah, and you can email anybody can email us any question, health, beauty, oral, and we will totally do our best or, send resources or further things to research because we've got to figure it out because we are the ones with our teeth every day.
right. It's such a
And a
lonely world.
lot can really be done, when we kind of put it together.
Oh yeah,
Eh,
100%. And I love that you said before how obviously our teeth are connected to earth and they're
Yes.
living. And that's one thing that's not really put out there. It's like once you get cavities, once you get decay, that's it. You're done. Your teeth
Yeah,
have to
which
be
is
pulled
how we
out.
kind of grew up, which is just really not accurate. And again, any work that like anything that I'm looking at has been studied, scientifically proven. And I'm gathering from dentists
Mhm.
that, they had to question their schooling. And by looking at the biology or, you know, um, can't remember the name of all the dentists I've studied, but there was also, this Navy dentist. What was his name? And he had written books that were just so practical because he was just in the Navy on a boat and he was just seeing so many people, have oral disease reverse or cavities reverse just by using like simple things like sea salt and getting the basic nutrition. And then in my book too, I synthesize like the information from Weston Price and like bring that up to modern times and then interweave that with like other doctors' work. Like there was a husband and wife team, I believe it was if I'm saying it correctly, the Melembes. And in the 30s, they were studying vitamin D, giving it to groups of children where, one group was just eating oats, one group was eating like oats and vitamin D. And what was the third one eating? I think they were eating maybe more vitamin D or something, right? But just like, so you have like the oats, just nothing, cavities getting worse, vitamin D with maybe it was cod liver oil and vitamin D. Anyway, vitamin D plus oats, cavities ceasing, vitamin D, maybe with that cod liver oil, or vitamin D plus, they were reversing
Wow,
to
that's
really
fascinating.
simplify the study. Or then we weave in like Dr. Melvin Page, where he was studying, not like blood sugar levels, because when we
Mhm.
have high blood sugar levels, not necessarily the sugar sitting on the tooth, but how sugar fluctuates our blood. and, how that creates a drop in phosphorus, which then tends to demineralize the teeth. And then weaving in the work of Dr. Ralph Steinem, which is really fascinating. He was a dentist. It's like the 50s, and, every August he has to stop practicing because he has so many allergies. And he was really feeling like dentistry was systemic, connected to the rest of the body. But his allergies were so bad. And then he like heard, give up like sort of white bread, white milk, white sugar, kind of like just that kind of diet. And everything cleared up, like that he could like practice again. So he was really seeing the connection between like food and teeth decay and all that. So he actually ended up closing his practice and then going into research at Loma Linda University. And through thousands of studies, what he found is that there is a mechanism when we chew the substrates, the nutritive substrates activate the parotid gland, which activates the hypothalamus, which I feel like everything kind of passes through the hypothalamus at some point because it's this major communication gland. And then we're digesting the food, the blood is pulling the nutrients. Then that blood moves up to the teeth. And then the teeth, which have roots like trees, they draw the blood up into the tooth, up into the pulp chamber. And the pulp chamber is very active. It's sort of like what makes the tooth like, juicy, so to speak, and fat and white. And, just like that's actually what's, the health of the enamel and everything. When there's a root canal, the pulp chamber is what is scraped out and then cemented in the thoughts that they're sterilizing it to save the chewing surface. That's another story, but that's like the pulp chamber. So then this blood is going up. And what he discovered was, which is pretty amazing, is that once the blood reaches the pulp chamber through a series of beautiful biology, the blood gets fenestrated into clear lymphatic liquid. And this lymphatic liquid gets pumped out onto the surface of the teeth by these odontoblasts. And what you have then on the surface of this teeth is this microscopic, like sweat almost, and it is coalescing with the saliva to help the teeth to buffer against cavities. And so there is a dentinal lymphatic transport system, which is what he discovered.
What
And
a
then
name.
yeah. And then he was like, but you know what? Yeah. So what's making it work? And that's when he paired up with Dr. John Lenora, which is an endocrinologist, hormone doctor. And that's when they were seeing the further mechanisms of the hypothalamus, like then they discovering what the switches were. So
So
with
that's
this
initiated by
discovery,
chewing.
yeah, well,
Initiated by
like, yeah,
chewing.
and nutrients. So those
Uh-huh.
nutritive messengers. And so
Mhm.
hopefully that is like, a good nutritive composition, right?
Right.
Like minerals and phosphorus and that kind of thing.
Mhm.
So, and then when I'm looking at like how we're going to care for a part of the body, knowing that we're like beautifully, brilliantly designed, I think, well, like, let's step out of the way. Like, let's not look at what we've been doing for the past 50 years or the past 100 years. And like, what's the biology to do when we're getting out of the way? And we weren't born with a toothbrush in our hands. So what is going on? Because, the bodies were designed to sort of have a successful life. So yeah, what are the mechanisms? And then, so I really appreciated finding this rare knowledge of Dr. Steinman's. And then, so they did thousands of tests. And then, oh yeah, so then what's really key though is when we're stressed or not having the right nutrients, or a diet just devoid of anything except, junk food, or high stress times too of hormones like pregnancy or teenage times, then that system, which is the centrifugal system that goes up into the tooth, sort of inwards, upwards, this spiral, then that system stagnates. And so then we no longer have this cleansing um, fluid going out onto the teeth. It just sort of stagnates. But then if we don't improve situation, then what happens is that dentinal lymph system actually reverses course. And then the tooth becomes like a straw. And then the tooth is sucking in virus and bacteria into the tooth, into the pulp chamber. And that's actually the genesis of how cavities are formed. So it's good for us to know that. And then that really helps us understand that the teeth are connected to the body, not just like physically present in the body, but literally mechanistically, systemically connected to the biological function.
I don't know why, but it makes me want to cry. I think it's just because this information is not available so easily. And I started to change my diet. That was the first thing, and I started to take the cod liver oil with
Mhm.
and I have dairy products, raw dairy products, and liver tablets because I don't really like eating it. I don't like the taste of it, so I get organic
It had
liver.
been on sort of a to-do list of mine, so to speak, of like how, incorporating more organ meats because it's like we've lost that art a bit and that taste.
Yeah.
And this year finally just really rocked this great liver pate recipe.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's like so yummy.
Oh, you'll have to send it me,
Yeah.
please.
Yes. Yes.
Because I'm like, I know I want to include it in my diet, but I just can't get the taste right. So I have these
Yeah.
capsules. And honestly, like after 3 weeks, I noticed my daughter's teeth, they changed. Firstly, they
Yes.
changed color. Secondly, the indent had started to harden. And so it was no longer an indent anymore. And I was just blown away because I couldn't believe it because of everything that I've been told through my life. And when I looked at her teeth, I was like, this is just incredible. But to share this information with just anyone, they would think you were crazy because of the ingrained belief that it's all to do with the toothpaste you use, how often you brush, and are you eating sugar? And of course, the sugar thing is a massive issue that you just spoke about, but it's so much more than that. It's like, how much nourishment are you getting in your diet? And
Mhm.
how is your what are your stress levels like? Because all that plays a part. And of course it does. It makes perfect sense. And like you said, our body knows how to heal itself. It knows how to do what it's got to do. And it's all the
Yes.
external things that are new, like in the past 100 years, um, that we need to be looking at because it seems like normal because none of us has lived 100 years. Well, maybe somebody has who's listened to this podcast, but we have had this in our life, like our whole life. So it's just normal. I'm
Yeah.
doing rabbit ears and no one can see me, but and so and you mentioned before like being pregnant. Like this is a time, many mothers in our community have said, after I gave birth, I had to have my teeth removed or I got the most
Yeah, there's
insane
like sort of an
cavities.
expression that like every pregnancy you lose a tooth or like, you know what I
Right.
mean? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
It's just
yeah.
not what we want.
No, it's like this thing that, oh, this just happens. Oh, I'm gonna have
Yeah.
no teeth
And
left.
again, yeah, we need our teeth. Well, moms are making so much to make another baby, like, to make a human inside of you. And then to breastfeed is just like, you're giving the prana of your bones to your kid, which is amazing. But we're still a bit lagging in like what the mother needs.
Right,
So, especially if you're breastfeeding and yeah, you want to get in some kind of organ situation.
right.
Um, and again, if there's, vegan, vegetarian, I so get it. And I've been there.
Me too.
Um, but, like, if we're really talking about, it's actually the studying oral care and teeth and bones that made me switch that course
Mm,
because we need, the vitamin D3, the K2, which you can get and still be vegan,
mm.
which is, we need the sunshine as well. The number one cause of juvenile diabetes is insufficient vitamin D in the pregnant mom. So just
Wow.
to really see that connection. And also, I don't think we think in our society that our bones are alive, but they are. They're piezoelectric. They're responding all the time. They've got odontoblasts. There's a whole cellular cycle there. Yet in our bodies, if the blood needs the nutrients, it's going to take that first, and then the bones will deal with that a few decades later. But the blood needs the day to day, and it'll just sort of like, sorry, bones, I'm going to take from you because I need this today. Like the calcium and stuff.
Yeah.
And so D3 and K2, for example, um, create the activity where they usher minerals like calcium, magnesium into the bone.
Mm.
And so without the vitamin and vitamin D3, K2. And I say them together because you really want to take them together. So if we're lacking in that, then any minerals that we are having aren't going to be going sent into the bones. And that's where we need to think of that long-term storage, so to speak,
Wow.
you know?
Nourishing the mother is where it has to begin,
Yes.
right?
Oh,
Nourishing the
yeah.
mother. And it's interesting because, I thought I was nourished, but I realized I
Yeah.
wasn't, just because I could see from taking the supplements and changing my diet. It wasn't just supplements, but changing my diet actually. I realized, oh, I was deficient, and my mood changed as well, because obviously my body had been at a battle almost to get the right nutrients to feed my baby. And the thing is, I felt so lucky, because although when I looked at my daughter's teeth, I cried because it was such a sad moment for me. But then I realized we are lucky because her teeth are showing me something that is actually going to
Yes.
help us
Yeah.
long
It really is.
term.
Yes. Yeah.
And
So true.
that's really
And
stuck
you
with
caught it
me.
early. And that's what's great too, is then you're really seeing too that, yeah, they were telling you something and they're alive and they're literally responding to the changes that you're making, which is amazing. Another thing that I think is super helpful is because yeah, it really is an inside job. And of course, we want to also take care of the oral microbiome, but really it's that foundation of nutrients and gut health that are really going
Mhm.
to set up the mouth. And then for the oral microbiome, it's like what we just didn't know for the past 50 years is that really a mouthful of bustling bacteria is what keeps the dentist away. And so, a lot of the modern things that we use, like toothpaste with sodium lauryl sulfate or triclosan, for God's sakes, or just like alcoholic, like mouthwash, or like, I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but mouthwash with alcohol.
That's right.
Um, they're all going to throw off the mouse microbiome and they're going to like kill off the good bacteria that's actually keeping the pathogens in check. So even if you just use baking soda for the rest of your life, you're going to be far better off than using any commercial or health food store toothpaste that often have sodium lauryl sulfate or things like glycerin, which literally create a invisible coating on the teeth, and then they don't allow that um, sort of breathe like in and out, or like the fluids to come and coalesce.
And that is in so
But
many kids' toothpaste.
so many,
Oh my
it's
gosh. I
ridiculous.
couldn't believe
And
it.
not to mention like the saccharin and the chalk and all of that stuff. So
Wow.
literally just, yeah, and I say that because it's true. And also because of course, I make all these, beautiful, very effective dental products, but literally you don't even have to go there because literally, I mean, it'll up level things, but the baking soda will just like could take care of you, or sea salt. And in my 2 books, I've got recipes to make your own toothpaste and mouth rinses and all kinds of things. So, and we also have 8 steps that you can follow. But last year we made a toothpaste with the mineral nanohydroxyapatite.
Mhm.
So I'm suggesting that because it actually it's like what teeth are made out of. And it smooths out fissures on the teeth. It smooths out the surfaces. It helps to repair the tooth surfaces, and it's whitening. So I think it'd be great for your daughter.
Oh, wow.
And it's been around, that ingredient for toothpaste, for a few decades, and it's approved for NASA because astronauts lose their bone density when they're in outer space as soon as you get up into the atmosphere. So it's like been approved scientifically that it does do that to teeth. It's just, but there's only a few toothpaste on the planet that had it, and of course it was with other ingredients that we don't want to use. So
Right.
we were
Oh,
really
that's
excited to
amazing.
create that. Yeah, it's the triple mint.
Oh,
And then
great.
another area for moms that's really important um, is, or not for moms, but for families looking for their kids' dental health, is really checking that there's no mouth breathing going on, because that will also create cavities, because we need to keep our mouths closed at night for the saliva, for the everything to be happening, and for creating that alkaline environment. So also, yeah, and then older people too, or if they're on medication, or yeah, anybody throughout the whole life, if you're mouth breathing, it's not good. Besides, you're not getting enough oxygen, but also for kids, they're literally going to grow differently. Like it will literally change their whatever sort of was the DNA blueprint for that sort of potential of the cells. It will change with mouth breathing, the neck, the mouth. Like there's been studies that show that, even with twins, that kind of thing. And it creates cavities. So you want to make sure it's hard. Because if they are,
Yeah.
like for adults, there's this mouth tape you can use.
Mhm. I
Obviously,
use
that's
that
super weird
sometimes in
for
the
kids.
day.
Yeah, yeah, you could. Oh, good for them. And you can even do things where you're doing it like vertically instead of horizontally, so you're not like fully, but at night it
Ah.
would like really help you. So that's really great for adults and like people. It's revolutionary to their health. Like they'll wake up going, "Oh my god!" Like we've had oxygen all night.
What is
So it's
this?
really good. And then for kids, well, as well as adults, it could be an allergy to dairy or who knows what that's creating um, just congestion in the sinuses all the time that may be inhibiting that not not breathing through the nose. So you've got to kind of all figure it out. And there's even myofascial practitioners, that even do Zoom classes and to just start, in case things aren't being used properly.
I heard about that for lip and tongue ties as well, using that technique.
Yeah, that is a good technique. There is also like, if it needs to be done, there's lasers. And that often will be at like a biological or a holistic dentist as well, or they
Mm,
may have other good options.
fascinating. Have you heard of neem powder being used?
Yeah, we actually have a couple pastes with neem. It's really good. It is
Oh,
super bitter.
yeah.
So it's a different like people like normally used to like that saccharin stuff. And it's like we know we just have neem, like one of the most bitter herbs on the planet. But people really love it because it's also like, then you're also activating other chemical messengers because the bitter is so good for the digestive flow as well. And I mean, it's just great as so we've also I made so from that dental visit when I was 24, that's when I started to make the happy gum drops, which are these concentrated dental serums that you can use for, you can use it instead of toothpaste. You can add that to your baking soda powder. So you could put a little baking soda on toothpaste, then add 1 drop of the dental serum, which is just really gonna activate things. I call them botanical biotics. And what's really cool now is we have the science through understanding the microbiome. We have science that helps us understand why for thousands of years, herbs and plants and oils like mastic, frankincense, rose, peppermint, clove, cinnamon, tea tree have been used for oral care. They've been chewed and distilled and all kinds of things. And now we understand that these plants have this thing called QSI, which is quorum sensing inhibitor. They're quorum sensing inhibitors, which means that they're able. So when pathogens are just floating around in the body, they're kind of on their own, but they're looking. They're looking for their friends to group up and then create biofilm. So they're quorum sensing, which is their gene expression and their communication. So something like clove can come in and inhibit that pathogen from expressing, kind of like some clove censorship on the pathogen. And then, so what we're seeing is that these plants, these botanical extracts, like frankincense, clove, cinnamon, peppermint, blah, 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 they're able to inhibit the quorum sensing, sort of clean up the pathogen, bust through the biofilm while being cooperative with the beneficial bacteria. So there's such a good solution because it's not like an antibiotic that is just like indiscriminately taking everything down, including the beneficial bacteria, which we now know we actually need, which we didn't know so much about that 10, 20 years ago. And so, using the dental serums can just really up level things and they're vulnerary, which means they help to speed up healing of the gums and the tissue and everything like that. Because it's not just the teeth, right? It's the whole little oral microbiome.
And so, do your products, do you deliver worldwide or is it just to Canada?
Oh, worldwide, yeah. More world than Canada.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm definitely going to look more into getting that. I've been with Araya, my daughter, because for one, it's such a struggle to brush her teeth in general. She
Oh
thinks
my
like
god,
I'm
isn't
trying
it?
to
Yeah,
kill
it's
her
like
or something.
herding cats or something,
Oh
right?
my gosh,
So
seriously.
that's why swishing is good, oil
Mhm.
pulling is good. There's a fun technique that I learned from a like oh my god, what's that called? A gum surgeon. There's a proper name, periodontal
Great.
surgeon.
Gum surgeon
And
sounds great.
he's obviously trying to prevent the skin grafts and stuff that happen when the gums are receding. And because you really can improve the pockets, you can improve the gum, because what often people find when they're having those grafts is like 10 years later, they're having another skin graft to the area. So it's not dealing with the problem. And I love getting to the root of the issue so that we can just solve it and get on with things, right? So there's a fun technique where you're using baking soda. You kind of just brush, or you could brush with the dental serum, just do a full brushing, or just take your do a baking soda brush, rinse, and then do another coating of the baking soda. And you can even get fancy by getting it along your floss and like getting baking soda in between the teeth. And then you just use a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar, and the whole thing froths, and it like lifts off plaque and tartar off the teeth. Your teeth are super clean. It's super fun for kids. It's
I'm
like
getting
this whole science
excited.
experience in the mouth. Yeah.
I'm about to walk
The
away
first
and
time
do
I
this right
did it,
now.
yeah, the first time I did it was like a flying day, which is usually, I don't know, just feels like after a flying day, extra kind of just placky yuck, right? And I was just like, we landed. I'm like, oh my God, like my teeth are like, I feel like I've just been to the hygienist.
That's
So it's super fun.
incredible.
And it is, so yes, apple cider vinegar is acidic, but but baking soda is so alkaline that the sum total is still in the alkaline range.
It's really incredible, and it just get me excited because I feel like a little witch, when I'm making these products and
Yeah.
things and put them in, it just feels like yes. And also it's going against everything that I've been taught, because if your mouth doesn't foam up with this minty fresh product, whatever it is, then it's not working. It's been so brainwashed to think that with anything really, when there's all that foaminess going on, but we can still
Mhm.
get the foaminess with this.
Yes.
So don't worry, everyone. You can still
And way
get
better
that.
than a sodium lauryl sulfate foam,
I've
which is
actually just
literally like a surfactant that now we can see under the microscope too, that the surfactants, even of a foaming face cleanser or of the toothpaste, they literally lodge themselves into the stratum corneum, and they don't rinse away and cause things in the mouth like bleeding and receding gums. So we're literally
gosh,
like in a catch-22 like the
what
whole
is
time.
going off? Like, gosh, I mean, this is a multi-billion-dollar industry, though, isn't it?
I think a
So,
lot of things were created without like fully getting the biology.
right, it hasn't just caught up
Yeah.
either. We get this information now, and it's like, well, we have so much of this toothpaste, we still got to sell it.
Yeah.
So there's another question that I wanted to ask that came up in our community, which was about metal fillings. So some of
Mhm.
the mothers had metal fillings. Um, what would be your best advice? Should they have them removed, replaced,
Yeah,
or
so all metal fillings are mercury fillings,
Mm,
and they're a conglomeration of various metals, always with mercury. So sometimes they're called silver fillings, but so yeah, there's silver in it, but there's also mercury, including other things like nickel. Oh, you know what? Maybe there isn't silver. Obviously, they look silver, but there's for sure nickel. I forget the full makeup. I think there's some copper in there. So not good on any level besides the mercury literally being a neurotoxin put in our heads. And then nickel actually being one of the most carcinogenic um, metals as well. So, which, is the whole thing with braces. I have an article and chapter on braces as well. But back to yeah. And then again, they would use it often on kids because it's like faster to put on if the kids are squirming. Many countries have banned it. I don't think pregnant women are allowed it. So, those are kind of our canaries in the coal mine. If they're not allowing it for pregnant women, I don't think we should generally be doing it either. Um, so yeah, you do want them removed because um, the mercury vapors, whether you just had it in yesterday or 50 years ago, those vapors actually release 24/7. And the vapors actually increase their release, the mercury vapors, by 500% when we're chewing. Is it hot food or having hot tea or what, like hot beverages? It actually increases. So it's pretty gnarly. Um, And they literally can create currents and stuff, and there's a special procedure to take them out and a certain even, like, pattern, and you really truly wanna go to somebody, not just a "holistic dentist," quote, unquote, that's, like, putting them in the next room, but happy to remove them out. They've gotta have proper protocols, which I talk about in my article on asking dentists, like prospective dentist questions. And then, and then you don't want to be too long taking it out. So, like, for example, a really rocking biological dentist, there's even a conscious sedation that they can do. So there's even better choices for that. And then they can really go in and do a ton of work in about 2 or 3 hours. Because most of us adults have to clear up our sort of childhood dentistry or whatever was going on before now. And that may include, mercury fillings and that kind of a thing. But it's really important to go to a really good dentist that
That's great
gets
information.
stuff
Thank you
together.
so much. I think everyone, like not everyone, but many women who are listening to this have a metal filling. I mean, it's coming up.
Yeah, and then if you're at the
Well,
good dentist removing them, then they're also gonna either test you for biocompatibility with the new materials going in, and they will hopefully have options that are also clean, which is usually part and parcel with a very good dentist. And then, just so you know, there's those options as well. And then also there's metal posts that often people have as well, which are made out of titanium, which is also super toxic. And, but there are options for ceramic or even, a zirconium. But we have to remember, I mean, these are still foreign objects going into the body, but they have such a much better track record. Zirconium's been used in Europe for like 30 years, and it's very immune compatible. So those are important things to know.
thank you so much for that information. Can I fit one more question in?
Yeah. Mhm.
um, what are your thoughts on removing wisdom teeth? Um, I say this because my friend recently has been told by a dentist that she has to have her wisdom teeth removed. And I asked her if they're growing in a certain way or does she have space? And she said, no, it's kind of like a common practice. And this was in Costa Rica. So I'm
It's a
wondering what
very
your
common
thoughts
practice.
are.
Yeah, it's a common practice because, I mean, it is a billable service. Now, I can't remember what journal of dentistry. I believe it was something in England. I'm sorry, I don't have I remember the stat. It's 67% of all wisdom teeth removal is literally unnecessary. So we need our wisdom teeth if possible. With nutritive rich diets and pregnancies, then we should have enough room in our jaw for our wisdom teeth. It's because of sort of like 10,000 years of eating grain. I'm very much like generalizing here, but the bones of the heads, the skulls are getting smaller, but they're definitely there. They're not just for fun. We're not like, hey, let's throw in some wisdom teeth. And so even when they're growing in odd, they still might be okay if you give it time. So it's something to keep an eye on, but definitely do not remove them until you really think there is an actual issue. And if you are removing it, then you need to again see a good dentist because then what's not common practice when a tooth is extracted is to remove the periodontal ligament. However, dentists in the know that you have to remove that because if you keep it in the mouth, then it is like kind of akin, Dr. Hal Huggins told me, to leaving the placenta in after giving birth. And then the gum grows
Wow.
over this thing that is rotting. And then you have a jaw cavitation, which is rot on the jawbone, which won't show up in an x-ray until it's 80% decayed. And I have a really good chapter I think I have it wisdom teeth in both books. And there's just a really fresh chapter in Renegade Beauty because I wrote it later. And I also go into the jaw cavitations there as well. But definitely hold on to your wisdom teeth as as much as you can because we need them. And you might need that tooth when you're 90.
Right.
You might need that chewing surface.
You brought up a lot then when you were saying that, because I remember actually in another episode that we did about breathwork, talking about how our jaws have shrunk and how it affects
Yes.
the way that we're breathing. And so the roll on effect with that and all the side effects of not being able to breathe efficiently. And we mentioned that also in the beginning. Fascinating how everything's linking together. Wow. Thank you for all the work that you've done because this information that you've just shared is truly life-changing. I'm so excited to go and tell my partner all about this because we've been doing our research here and there. And it's really great to know that yeah, there's people like yourself really putting the work in to bring this to light,
Yeah,
which
it's
is
my
exciting.
pleasure. Just we got to figure it out, right? We all have teeth.
We
all want
do.
them.
Hopefully we all have some left.
Yeah.
Would you be able to share with the audience where they can find you and what you have to offer?
Yeah, so feel free to email us through the website at livinglibations.com. And our books are there. We've got articles there. And then the books are also on Audible. There's Audible versions. And we're over on Instagram as well.
That's wonderful. And the Audible's always great for mums. I feel like they get through many
Yes,
Audibles just like hanging around, breastfeeding, put that in their ear. So that's
totally.
amazing. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this conversation. And you.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Yay, we did it.